Welcome back, YouTubers, to what should be a very interesting video where us, the British Fist, preview WrestleMania 30, one of the biggest WrestleManias since, well, WrestleMania 20. This is me, Mr. Parkin, Stay Classy Miami, and this guy sitting next to me is none other than NJ, who automatically is classy.
What's up?
If you have any thoughts on WrestleMania 30, please, by all means, put them in the comment section below. We have got a lot of shit we want to talk about on this video. Firstly, we just want to talk about our general feelings about WrestleMania. What are your thoughts about the build going into this WrestleMania? Does it feel like a big show? And what are your general feelings on the card that WWE have constructed?
This is the time of the year where we can feel that the WWE are at least concentrating on what's needed to sell our upcoming pay-per-view. The rest of the year, you've heard us complain, you've heard us not been very happy with the build towards stuff. This, at least it feels better than past pay-per-views, but I still feel it's not done its full justice for the full card.
I mean, me personally, like I said, I haven't been watching a hell of a lot of Raw, but I do tune in for it, and I watch SmackDown, of course. But I think the build has been pretty decent. I mean, you've got 4 big matches there that actually feel like big matches. And I think the fact that Bryan is going to be a staple of this WrestleMania really has helped this show to feel a lot better, because if we had Randy Orton versus Batista in the main event, God, this WrestleMania would have sucked. Does it feel like a big show? I mean, we've got a bit of star power in there. Triple H is there, Undertaker's there, Brock Lesnar's there, Batista's back, Randy Orton's there, John Cena's there, possibly Stone Cold could be returning for the evening. Hulk Hogan is the guest host. So WWE have done a decent job in getting all the big stars, whether it be for the past or for the future, on this WrestleMania show. There's only 7 matches on the card, though, which is quite disappointing. I imagine the reason for that is because of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, which they imagine is probably going to go quite long. And a lot of the bigger matches, I imagine WWE will allot a lot of time for.
As much as we can accept that the bigger matches have had the most concentration and they're the ones that are going to be concentrated on the most of the pay-per-view, it is a shame that the rest of the card is overtaken by the 30-man Battle Royal, because that's a lot of possible feuds, matches that are put all into one match instead of separate matches.
Indeed, and because of that, I believe the undercard is very underwhelming on this WrestleMania. I mean, we have 4 big matches, but other than that, we don't have the IC Championship being defended. We don't have the US Championship being defended. Hell, the Tag Team Championship, are on the pre-show. So we don't really have much of an undercard, which means that a hell of a lot is going to really depend on how well the 4 big matches come across. And that's a lot of pressure on those 4 matches, in my opinion.
And even though we know these 4 matches are going to pay off, this is why maybe you'd like the card to be properly stacked up. So we know the 4 matches are going to pay off, but we're to see how the rest of the card does.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this WrestleMania for a lot of fans will depend on a certain yes, and what happens with them with regards to, you know, belt. That's all I'll say about that. It'll be interesting also how the WWE get on with their WWE Network as well. They're charging people $10 a month, pretty much $10 to watch a pay-per-view every month. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the amount of people that are going to be tuning on the WWE Network. Probably 1 million or so are going to be watching this through the WWE Network. Will the systems, you know, not crash? Because if the systems crash and it doesn't show on the network, I imagine a lot of people are going to be very, very unhappy with the WWE, and the WWE Network isn't really going to be getting off to that much of a great start. I believe this show is a real staple as to how well this WWE Network can be a success for WWE, because it is essentially changing the landscape of WWE and sports entertainment, really.
That's true, because the WWE have hyped up the network to be about the WrestleMania.
That's the first pay-per-view as well.
That's the big statement.
Yes.
So with the amount of fans that are obviously tuning into WrestleMania via the network, I'm sure the WWE have a plan B, but for now, that's going to be the big question. Has the network been built well enough to overlast so many fans?
They have Plan B and Plan C. Plan B is hoping that people actually buy the pay-per-view on a pay-per-view channel or whatever. And Plan C is, let's just hope these guys have a stream backed up just in case the WWE Network stream actually pumps out. But yeah, shush, no petty cash and all that shit. We're getting to the pre-show. Apparently, you've heard us talk about the build and everything. Let's just go on to the actual card itself. The pre-show is going to be 2 hours. Now, will we watch it? No. Do I care? Not really that much. I think I'll probably tune in to watch the Tag Team Championship match on the second hour, I believe. But 2 hours for a pre-show. I believe we had it on our Q&A where someone said it's going to be a quarter of a day of WrestleMania. Is that too much? Is 2 hours really too much for a pre-show? I mean, I understand they're going to try and go out there to make it feel like a big pre-show and everything, especially with, as the Slick Daddy said in his preview, the NFL having a massive preview to their Super Bowl. But is there really much point in a 2 hour pre-show to WrestleMania? I don't know.
To be honest, when I heard 2 hours, I thought, to be honest, you managed to fit in a lot in 1 hour in your past pre-shows. A match, video packages, boom, ready for the pay-per-view. 2 hours, they must have something backed up to make this pre-show feel important. But I personally don't really think 2 hours is necessary.
I reckon WWE are doing it as a build-up thing. It's like, you know, like they do, like I said, with the Super Bowl and other big sporting events. They have a massive, you know, even in soccer or football, as we call it, they have massive pre-show panels where they, you know, spend a couple of hours before the actual match comes. You know, when it gets to the FA Cup final or the European Cup final, they sometimes do that. So I understand why WWE do it because other sports do it. As for the fatal four-way tag team match for the WWE Tag Team Championship between the Usos, Los Matadores, the Real Americans, and Ryback. Are you a little bit disappointed that the Usos aren't on the main card, especially after, you know, their big win on the Chicago Raw?
No.
Are you not surprised at all?
No.
Why is that?
The WWE threw away the New Age Outlaws versus the Usos by giving us it many times instead of making the Usos Championship win happen at Mania.
Yes.
So the fact they've scrapped that and they've done this fatal four-way, I don't really feel this match whatsoever.
And to be honest with you, you know, some of the tag teams in there are pretty good, but I do echo your point. It's like they had this big moment onto the Chicago Raw, which was a great moment, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you kind of think with the New Age Outlaws getting a match on the actual WrestleMania card, would it have been a bigger moment for the Usos if they won the Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania 30, the biggest event of the year and the past 10 years, as the WWE would say? You know, I think it would have been. So the fact they're on the pre-show is a little bit disappointing, but I would expect a somewhat decent match suite between these four tag teams. I was quite surprised that Los Matadores were thrown in there and not the Rhodes Brothers.
This is the thing, because maybe it's the way the WWE feel about the Rhodes Brothers, who are in the Battle Royal, so they're in a bigger spot, and the Los Matadores, to get them their payday, they've been put into a match at least.
I think the good thing about this card is a lot of people will be getting paydays, which I guess for the wrestlers is good. So at least the wrestlers are going to be getting some money for this time. But as for this Tag Team Championship match, it's had an incredibly mediocre build. I'm not too fussed about it. I think you could have had a bigger moment for the Usos at WrestleMania. But essentially, it should be a solid pre-show match. You know, nothing special, and the Usos should come out of it the winners. It would be better, I think, if it was an elimination match.
I really feel that there is no denying that the Usos are going to walk out. If you cancel it down, Ryback's what you've
no chance.
They've really not had the dominant heel look about them.
The Real Americans, though.
I feel they're going to break up, so why put them as champions if their next schedule is to break them up? Then you've got Los Matadores thrown in there for some spots, maybe. So it's cancelling down for the Usos.
Right, let's move on to the actual WrestleMania 30 card. There's 7 matches, like we said. First thing we want to get off our chest is Hogan is the guest host. You know, Hulk Hogan is probably one of the biggest stars in wrestling, one of the most noticeable names in wrestling, and he's going to be guest hosting the show, which is a good thing for mainstream publicity, and he's been a good part of the WWE actually promoting this Andre the Giant Battle Royal. But, you know, how do you compare Hogan being the guest host to, say, someone like The Rock, who was the guest host of WrestleMania 27? What are they actually going to do on this card? What will Hogan do, if anything?
I think he may be just here for backstage little segments and to bring up the Battle Royal. Because The Rock, yes, he did that thing at the end of WrestleMania, which we're going to forget about.
And he opened WrestleMania 27 with a promo as well, which took too much time.
And he brought up backstage segments, entertaining stuff. Not saying Hogan won't, but it does leave us, has Hogan got another trick in his sleeve to make him stay on after WrestleMania?
Hopefully Hogan won't be too overbearing, but I must admit, I'd love to see him in the ring doing the leg drop one more time and hulking up. That would be pretty sick. But going on to the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, your thoughts on the concept of this Andre the Giant Battle Royal and, you know, the 30 men being in there and just being for a trophy and not really being for any #1 contendership or anything?
Okay, negative first is that you put a lot of wrestlers in here who we said
Yes.
earlier could benefit being in another match or in single matches.
Indeed, and stars like Sheamus, Big Show, Cody Rhodes, even people like Dolph Ziggler, again, are not getting a signature match at WrestleMania. And people like Cody Rhodes and Goldust could have had a match. Sheamus and Mark Henry could potentially have had a match. But I think at the end of the day, it is kind of disappointing. But the Andre the Giant Battle Royal concept, I like it because you're celebrating 30 years of WrestleMania and it has a big star and it gets their name on the card. And it should be a big moment for someone actually on this Andre the Giant Battle Royal. But the question is really, we know the match is going to be a clusterfuck and everything. Who is going to win this? Who do you think will get the rub in this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal?
Because that's the good thing about this, is that with the amount of wrestlers that are in here, you're going to see wrestlers that you used to like, that don't get TV time. You're going to get to see spots. You're going to get to see probably a lot of good action. But when it comes down to the final, I personally, I've said this before, everyone's prediction is the Big Show because of their reasoning. But I personally want, and fingers crossed, Biggie Langston.
I think having the IC champion win it would be a real staple for a guy like Biggie Langston, especially if WWE are very high on him. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to go to Big Show. Big Show has been built up as the guy that's going to be winning it. And for a guy that's been compared to Andre the Giant so much in many ways, I think it would make total sense for him to actually win this Battle Royal. We've got some pretty big names in there, but at the end of the day, I think Big Show will end up the winner.
I'll take nothing away from the Big Show because of the fact that he's got the size, he's got the resemblance, but maybe sometimes matches are not about the outcome and moving forward, it's about the moment. So yes, give Big Show his moment, but like Mr. Parkins said, to spotlight your future wrestler, the future push, I guess it would benefit someone that's new to the company.
Indeed, but at the same time, you look at all the shit that Big Show has taken over WrestleMania, this could just be a nice moment for him, maybe if he's going to finish his career in a couple of years. I don't know, I'm just saying. So that, I do wonder if that will open the card, who really knows? We just talked about it first. We don't know if it's opening the card, but we'll move swiftly on to the Vicky Guerrero Divas Championship Invitational, which involves AJ Lee, Tamina, and a load of other divas. Now, I haven't talked about a Divas match in months, so I just really don't care about this. I would prefer this to be on the fucking pre-show, because then I know definitely I wouldn't have to watch the pre-show, but again, build, just non-existent. The only thing we can really talk about here is who's going to win. Is it going to be AJ Lee retaining? Are they going to put it on Naomi? Are they going to put it on Tamina, who they kind of been teasing tension with one of the Bellas because of Total Divas? That's really the only intrigue there is in this match. And I have a feeling that AJ Lee, she's been taking a lot of shit recently. I think she'll retain.
At least Vicky's not in this match. That's the highlight.
She might put herself in. You never know.
If anyone's to be put in, I would want it to be the person that's going to be mentioned later in this review, Lita. But we'll get to that later. As for the winner, I feel that after the amount of negativity that AJ has put other divas through, this is their chance to get revenge, their chance to beat her down, and for a new champion to be crowned. I'm going to say it's Naomi.
Would be. I think Naomi is probably the best newer diva they can have to actually win the belt. I would like it if she did win, even though I did kind of like that eye patch, but there we go. Vicky Guerrero's Divas Championship Battle Royal, whatever it is, pretty much a piss break, really. As for the 6-man tag team match between The Shield and Kane and the New Age Outlaws, I know a lot of people are kind of disappointed about this. They wanted to see The Shield, face each other as it looked like they were breaking up, and they wanted to see Roman Reigns have a real WrestleMania moment after, overtaking Kane's record of 11 eliminations at the Royal Rumble. You would think that at WrestleMania 30, after doing that with Roman Reigns and after the great reaction he got when he was in the final 2 against Batista, you would think they'd want to spotlight him a lot. And maybe this will be the kind of match where they can spotlight a Roman Reigns. But just give your general thoughts on, how you feel about this match and what you felt it could have been for The Shield.
Okay, what I feel about this match is it almost feels... Some people say it's hard enough build to make worthy of a pay-per-view match, but I'm against it. I don't look at this match thinking you were teasing a Shield breakup, you were teasing each one wanting to look like the best member of the Shield, and you could have had it at the biggest stage of them all, the winner to go up and say, I'm the biggest highlighted one from the Shield. But instead, you're probably going to get maybe an accidental screw-up for the match from The Shield, or the winner is going to say, I caused the team to win at Mania. However they're going to do it, I feel they've just missed the opportunity to have had a proper
blow off triple threat, as you would say. Yeah, I find it interesting. Really, in the sense that, I mean, I think this had pretty mediocre build, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because it is an undercard match. But it did seem like the Shield were breaking up, and it did seem like they changed their mind on that really quickly. And it's like, right, now we're going to shove Kane and the New Age Outlaws in there. But apparently the New Age Outlaws wanted to work with the Shield. And, you know, if anything else, even though the match probably won't be that great and probably won't do the Shield much justice, so to speak, the Hounds of Justice, do you get it? NJ gets it. Do you? If you don't, you're stupid. I'm just saying. But I imagine this should be a signature victory for the Shield. It really should, because the Shield are going to hopefully be a big part of it. I mean, they've been one of the better performers as a trio, especially in the WWE. So I'd imagine that this will be done to highlight the Shield, if nothing else. There's no way the New Age Outlaws are going to win here. Fucking surely.
I look at this match, and yes, it would make sense for the Shield to get a WrestleMania win. The only way I see Kane's team winning is if the Shield actually do break up at WrestleMania and Kane takes advantage.
So you think at WrestleMania they will finally break up the Shield then?
I think it should happen, yes.
I think if you're I think they should keep them together for a little bit longer, but tease the tension just a little bit more. So eventually they're going to have to break up, and maybe you do the breakup at SummerSlam or something.
But my question, if you keep them together, is what is there left for them to do?
Exactly. That's the problem. Maybe a rematch with these three Extreme Rules or something, or maybe you have three individual. I don't know what they're going to do. But anyway, on to something positive. That's the Hall of Fame this year. The Hall of Fame this year, I think, is one of the best we've ever had. There are so many big names in it. I think WWE have really gone through a lot of hoops to make this actually feel big. We've got names like the Ultimate Warrior, who we never thought would be in the Hall of Fame. Jake the Snake, who we didn't think would ever be in the Hall of Fame. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, who we were thinking, is he going to get in the Hall of Fame? Paul Bearer, who probably should have been in the Hall of Fame last year, but is in this year at WrestleMania 20. Carlos Colon, Lita, and Mr. T, who was a big part of actually launching the first WrestleMania. I think this is you've got so much variety here, and there are so many big names in there. It's probably the best Hall of Fame we've had, especially since that 2005 lot.
Well, for each Raw that they were announced, the reaction, the media,
the emotion the internet, as well.
Yeah, there was a lot going into each person, and it makes this Hall of Fame without any unnecessary, oh, that person should be in there. I do feel they've done really well this year.
I mean, every one of those names, you know, feels like they should deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. You know, sometimes we question the celebrity, but Mr. T was a massive part of actually launching WrestleMania 1 and his partnership with Hulk Hogan and everything like that. So the Hall of Fame, yeah, exactly. The Hall of Fame this year is really very good, and I am very pleased with how WWE have done this, especially a big WrestleMania like WrestleMania 30, where you would expect a big Hall of Fame like this.
They've done it proud. I'm looking forward to it, and it will be watched.
Probably won't be watching the Hall of Fame ceremony, but I'm glad the Hall of Fame is good. I'll just put it that way. A couple of things also, you know, a lot of people have been saying that CM Punk may return at WrestleMania, and he may return to screw Daniel Bryan or something. As for the CM Punk situation, will he return? Because I don't really think CM Punk will return. I don't see the point.
I feel the WWE, especially Vince McMahon, yes, CM Punk has done stations where he's spoken out and given his opinion and feelings on the WWE and why he left. But Vince McMahon may continue to try, but I feel CM Punk should stay where he is now. If that's what he wants to do, and he's not just doing this to try and get more out of Vince, then good luck to CM Punk.
I totally agree. I really do. And also, Stone Cold Steve Austin was announced at WrestleMania, I believe it was Thursday. And part of me was thinking, you got Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. You only just announced it on Thursday. You didn't really even announce it on TV. I just wonder what a Stone Cold Steve Austin is actually going to do on WrestleMania. I'm all for Stone Cold being there because, like I said, it's essentially WrestleMania 30 is a celebration of a big milestone, 30 WrestleManias for WWE. You need all the star power you can get there, all the past stars. You've got Hogan, and now you've got Austin there, the two probably biggest stars of wrestling in general, even though The Rock isn't there, of course. But I just wonder what he's actually going to do, what they've got planned for him. Maybe a Piper's Pit segment. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Well, I look at Austin being there. Yes, he was there last year, but that made sense because of him and Rock. He didn't make it to Raw 1000, so I guess being at WrestleMania gives him his moment. But the prediction was him and CM Punk. But with CM Punk not being here, it does leave you wondering, is Austin just going to have a backstage segment to be there? or is he actually going to set something up for a year's contract?
Who really knows? Now we're going on to the 4 big matches of this WrestleMania, which will really determine how good this WrestleMania is actually going to be. We're going to start off with the guy who you generally think would be in the main event, and that is John Cena, who is facing Bray Wyatt. I think it's very good this year that WWE have actually put, number one, John Cena in the mid-card of WrestleMania, not in the main event, and they're actually having him face like a newer superstar and hopefully putting them over at WrestleMania. I feel this feud with John Cena and Bray Wyatt has really helped elevate Bray Wyatt a lot, but I do feel that Bray Wyatt really needs to win at this year's WrestleMania. I do also like how they've made Cena seem vulnerable, in a sense that he's vulnerable to Bray Wyatt and everything. That Bray Wyatt has gotten Cena over on many occasions, other than, of course, the go-home show. So I feel this has been built up very well. I'm actually pretty excited for this match, and I really do hope that Bray Wyatt goes over. I think it should be, he's one of the hottest characters in wrestling right now, so I think he should go over.
Not just because of how I feel about John Cena, but I think the fact that he's got so many accomplishments already, we keep wanting this year after year after year for him to now go into a feud where it's not about John Cena, it's about his opponent. And so far, apart from the go-home show, it has been more about Bray. Bray with his almost awesome promos, his overpowering John Cena, his mind work over John Cena. So it would make sense for him to continue that to get the win.
This should be a good match. I think this, between Bray Wyatt and John Cena, will definitely be a good match. I do hope, like I said, that Bray Wyatt wins the match and then continues into 2014 as one of the hottest characters in the WWE, to the point where maybe he could challenge the WWE Heavyweight Championship, maybe at SummerSlam or something.
That would be great, because the more work they put on Bray Wyatt, the more of a way they can push him without any complaints. But John Cena's track record and the way that we all feel about him, we want John Cena to do the right thing and give Bray Wyatt his WrestleMania win. But at the same time, Extreme Rules is more going to be in Bray Wyatt's advantage because of weapon usage and no rules and stuff. So at WrestleMania could be another John Cena win.
I think it's only logical that you have Bray Wyatt win here and then you have Cena win at Extreme Rules to end the feud. So you have Bray Wyatt have his big moment at WrestleMania while still ending the feud with John Cena at Extreme. I think that's the best way of doing this, and it's usually how WWE do this. And the match at Extreme Rules will probably be better. Who really knows? The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. This is an interesting one because I think this is one of those matches at WrestleMania where WWE are very, very reliant on the names in the match and haven't really done an awful lot to really build it. Especially, they haven't done really much to make us think that Brock Lesnar can end the streak. I mean, yes, we know that Undertaker is aging. You know, Paul Heyman has said that many times. We know Brock Lesnar has manhandled opponents that Undertaker has struggled to beat at WrestleMania, etc. We know that Brock Lesnar is a legit UFC fighter. But the way he's been booked against Undertaker, you would not think for 1 second that he has anything over Undertaker. And Undertaker is definitely going to keep this streak going. There's nothing different that's going to happen here, is there? It's very predictable.
It is very predictable, and I've said this before. Yes, it's one of the big four matches. Yes, it's a match that needs to happen or needed to have happened in the past. I'm glad we're getting it, but my feeling Brock Lesnar is nowhere near where it should be or where it used to be. Taker, yes, it's good they're taking the advantage of keeping him around, but like I've said before, if it comes, because I think it's now the usage of Taker is about the money at WrestleMania more than a story, because the biggest story they're ever going to have got on, I feel right now, is the Streak versus
You had Street versus Career, then you had Triple H, which I think was the ultimate in where you probably could have ended it.
Yes, so I feel right now...
End of an era, that was the one.
Yes, so it's just about the money now.
Yeah, pretty much. But it should at least be a good match, I would hope. I mean, Brock Lesnar's stiff MMA style, that will be another challenge for Undertaker. I mean, for the previous years, he's been able to work with someone who goes quite easy on him, but Brock Lesnar is very stiff in the ring. And I do wonder, with Undertaker being quite old and quite hurt, whether or not he'll be able to do anything after WrestleMania. But I guess the general idea going in here is you give Brock Lesnar and Undertaker a big match at WrestleMania, which they know will draw some eyes. And, it's more about the name power than the build, really. Let's face it, because the build has been very mediocre to this feud and very vanilla, in my opinion.
So there's no doubt that, yes, at some point Taker has to finish, but this year it's going to be Taker to retain.
And you never know, they might set up to Sting versus Undertaker next year. You never know. I mean, they've got Sting in there, and It's a match that people would probably want to see, but we'll see what happens with that. But just putting that out there, Sting versus Taker could happen next year at WrestleMania. And then you could have maybe Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 32 or something. Who really knows? Now it's really time to focus on what I guess a lot of fans really are going to be focusing on at this year's WrestleMania. I think a lot of fans really aren't too bothered about the card. They're only really worried about 2 matches, and it's just because one person is in them. We'll start off with Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, the match for the 3rd spot in the WWE World Heavyweight Championship Triple Threat match. Now, this storyline has been going on since SummerSlam, ever since Triple H screwed Daniel Bryan. So really, it's the match on the card that has had the most build, and you've consistently put roadblocks in front of Daniel Bryan. And now it's coming to a head where Daniel Bryan has kind of taken CM Punk's spot for WrestleMania, and is now facing Triple H, and we assume that he would have to win this match, especially, this really has to be the blow-off, especially if he's not going to win in the main event. It should at least be the blow-off for this feud, definitely.
This is the match that I do praise Daniel Bryan for getting over CM Punk. I praise him for getting this match. I praise Triple H is going to be the one to put Daniel Bryan over.
I mean, Daniel Bryan was more over than CM Punk, really, wasn't he?
In many cases. But I feel that this is the story of WrestleMania. Yes. The main event, not so much. Daniel Bryan was wanting this match. He's getting it. So for Daniel Bryan to get this win makes perfect sense and gives us the better outcome.
Do you know what? I hope, I mean, if WWE don't have Daniel Bryan win the main event, which we'll get onto in the next match, I hope at least they make him a star in the sense that they have him go over Triple H and finally get his redemption for all the crap that's been happening. I think a lot of people have gotten behind Daniel Bryan because he loses a lot. He's had loads of obstacles to overcome. I mean, when was the last time he really won a big match? It's not really been for that long, which has allowed fans to rally behind him. And I think if he was winning big match after big match, which he probably may do this year, I don't think as many fans would have rallied behind him as actually happened when it comes to the Occupy Raw segment. But I think it's really good how a guy like Daniel Bryan has really built himself up, and the WWE have built this story since SummerSlam to get to this point of WrestleMania, which should be, in my opinion, a conclusion of a 2-year storyline now, since the Yes movement started. This should be a conclusion to a 2-year storyline, and hopefully that will go into the main event. This should be a damn good match. We know Bryan can go in the ring. We know Triple H can go in the ring. We know these guys can tell a good story in the ring. I'd give these guys about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whether it opens the card or is in the mid-card. These two should tear the house down. They really should. Probably even more so than the main event will. And only one person is walking out of this match the winner, and that is Daniel Bryan. Unless WWE wants to troll us and have an All Breakfast Club main event.
I feel with this match, the fact that it's got the 2 guys who have been at it since SummerSlam, and the thing that Dan was saying about Daniel Bryan, we said this in our last week's Q&A, it's not always about the finale, which is the main event. It's the chase. The fact that Daniel Bryan's had to work to get this match against Triple H. He's had to work to get the title shot after Mania. So, to be honest, I feel this match is probably the most anticipated match on the card. I
do wonder, though, if WWE have done this in a way where they can have Daniel Bryan beat Triple H in this match, but essentially maybe not have him go over in the main event. I do wonder that, though. I mean, the triple threat match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, we imagine will be Randy Orton versus Batista versus Daniel Bryan. Let's just first talk about the build to this. You had Batista winning the Royal Rumble, and then, Randy Orton's the champion. You thought it was going to be babyface Batista versus heel Randy Orton. The crowd then turned Batista heel, and WWE kind of realized they couldn't have a heel versus heel in the main event of WrestleMania, and that's why they pulled that audible to put possibly Daniel Bryan in, which I think was one of the best decisions they actually made. But just imagine if this match was Randy Orton versus Batista, how uninterested people would have been in WrestleMania. And just thank God that Daniel Bryan's been included in there. A guy that is the most over guy, one of the most popular guys in WWE this year, definitely.
As much as the idea originally was Batista versus Randy Orton, I feel as soon as Batista got that bad reaction, Vince McMahon had to think and work on the next best thing. And with CM Punk not there for backup, he had to go to the next best thing.
And that's why they had to have Daniel Bryan pull double duty. Do you really think that having him pulling double duty at WrestleMania, if CM Punk was there, it would probably be Punk versus Triple H, and Daniel Bryan would just be in the main event, and they would have done it that way. But I think it's kind of better, the fact that CM Punk walked out and the way they've actually audibled it, with him having to beat Triple H before he gets to this. to this triple threat match. I mean, if Daniel Bryan beats Triple H, beats Randy Orton and Batista, he's essentially beaten 3 members of the Breakfast Club in one night. What a great way. If WWE are going to do this, which we'll get onto in a minute, if WWE are going to have Daniel Bryan walk out the WWE whatever champion, what a way to do it. I mean, you've had him overcome all these obstacles. You've had the Yes movement, the Occupy Raw segment, the fact that he wasn't a Royal Rumble and the bad reaction to that, and Triple H kind of trolling the crowd a little bit. And then you get to a point where he could potentially beat Triple H, Randy Orton, and Batista and walk out the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. If you said that to someone 2 fucking years ago, do you think they would have they'd have called you a fucking stupid ass for saying that, wouldn't you?
18 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. They would have called you an idiot for saying that. And the fact that he is there now, hopefully, even if Daniel Bryan doesn't win, because I kind of had the feeling, I think we talked about this in the Q&A, we kind of have the feeling that Triple H is going to, Daniel Bryan is going to beat Triple H, and then he may walk out with the championship, but there's always a chance that because Batista won the Royal Rumble, that may have been the original plan, that Batista may win the championship and become the new top heel. It doesn't really seem like WWE have that much confidence behind Randy Orton. I mean, Randy Orton's been the 3rd wheel in this. I mean, 4th wheel if you count Triple H. It's almost like he's non-existent as the champion. He's one of the most forgettable champions going into a WrestleMania main event.
That's the point why I see Daniel Bryan. I think with Daniel Bryan, the fact that he's going to beat Triple H is probably not going to allow Daniel Bryan to just walk on and have a clean match. That's why I expect the main event maybe not to be too clustered, but knowing the outcome, what could happen, there's a chance that Daniel Bryan's going to put on a great performance but not win. Orton, I feel that with the bad reaction, the non-caring, I think he's going to lose, so it down leaves Batista and feud with Bryan afterwards.
Yeah, and I think Batista is now the top heel. I mean, other than Triple H, who I believe is the top heel, the next top heel is by far Batista. In my opinion, he's just so much of a better heel than a Randy Orton who's very boring. So I can imagine if they're going to do it, either they're going to put over Daniel Bryan and do this massive moment at WrestleMania, or they're going to have Batista walk out with the belt and be the top heel going forward into SummerSlam, etc., where he may feud with Daniel Bryan. Now, one thing I do want to say, like I said, WWE could make Daniel Bryan into a massive star tonight, and that would be a really great thing. But I think a lot of people's opinion on this show, and I think we need to mention this, a lot of people's opinion on the show will be based on the fact that will Daniel Bryan win or not. And if Daniel Bryan wins, you know this is going to be the best WrestleMania of all time. And if Daniel Bryan doesn't win, you know fans are going to shit on this, even though it may end up being a good WrestleMania. I would love to see a WrestleMania 20 moment. I know we don't talk his name, but that moment with Chris Benoit, if you discount everything he's done, was a great WrestleMania moment. I hope we get a moment like that where Daniel Bryan beats, 3 top guys in the company, or 3 of the most, controversial, or 3 of the most public, I guess you could say, controversial characters in the WWE, and walks out of the championship. I really do hope we get a WrestleMania 20 moment. I think that would be brilliant. Whether or not we'll get it, though, that's the big question, and that is essentially what will skew people's opinions on this show. I think so.
I look at Daniel Bryan, feel that if they wanted another person to go all the way, it would be Daniel Bryan. I wouldn't complain if he did it, because obviously 3 guys would have put Daniel Bryan over in one night. Brilliant. But my downfall is, he goes to hell with Triple H. He probably goes through hell in the main event. Then we expect him after to stand up tall, doing the yes, 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 just to make the fans go happy. And
also, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess my question is, do you think that when the thrill of the chase is over, do you think people will get behind Daniel Bryan as much? Because the whole point about the Daniel Bryan character was that he was getting so screwed that he was never going to reach that level. So what happens when he does eventually reach that level? Are people is he going to be as over? Is he going to get as good of reactions? Are WWE going to book him as a legit WWE World Heavyweight Champion? I guess that's my question. I would love to see Daniel Bryan win it, but I do wonder, I am the kind of guy who likes to look forward, and I would love to see a feud between Daniel Bryan and, Batista, with maybe Triple H being a special guest referee or a big part of the feud or something. But...
Well, before I go on to explaining how the WWE will treat Bryan afterwards, we spoke about this in our Q&A too, which I think we have to take into consideration. Yes, whoever wins will probably have to have a rematch against Orton for the championship, but we spoke about Brock Lesnar. Once he's finished with The Undertaker, he's meant to be the #1 contender, so would it be Brock Lesnar and Batista, Brock Lesnar and Orton, or Brock Lesnar and Bryan.
There's plenty of potential for big matches there as well, isn't there? I mean, you still John Cena's a big star for the company. You count Bray Wyatt, who could really be put over big. There are plenty of people that there are plenty of new big matches that WWE could make going into SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and even Royal Rumble, and potentially next year's WrestleMania. But at the end of the day, I think this WrestleMania needs to be all about Daniel Bryan. You know, Daniel Bryan is the most popular guy in the company. It needs to be all about Daniel Bryan. Even if he doesn't win it, there needs to be some element of, you know, this is a guy going forward that we want main eventing our shows. This is a guy going forward we want to be, you know, the second top babyface behind a John Cena that we can rely on in the main event consistently. And I really hope the WrestleMania 30 does that. I really do.
Well, I see no doubt the fact that of all the matches, the Daniel Bryan storyline has had the biggest, the most wanted. So the WWE will have to make this feud, these matches pay off.
I mean, it does make total sense for Daniel Bryan to win, but there's always that thought in the back of your mind with WWE that they won't do it. Do you know what I mean? The way WWE generally does things, you just get this strange feeling that they're building up Daniel Bryan to win, and at the last minute, they're going to have Batista walk out with the belt.
And we're going back to what you said about fans complaining at WrestleMania because Daniel Bryan didn't get 2 matches done against 3 of the top heels in the company. The fact that Daniel Bryan is scheduled to become champion, it may not be at Mania, but you know it's going to come again because 2014 is more than likely CM Punk sitting as a station. This is the year of Bryan.
Yep, it really will be the year of Daniel Bryan. But anyway, I'm kind of tired of talking about WrestleMania now, NJ, so I hope this WrestleMania is a good WrestleMania. I really do. I don't want to go into this WrestleMania. I haven't really raised my expectations too much, mainly because I don't want to be disappointed about this show. But that this show has some good things going into it and some things that I'm kind of meh about. But hopefully these 4 matches that we've mentioned in the last sort of 20 minutes of this preview will all deliver. And we'll end up being very pleased when WrestleMania finishes and, Daniel Bryan walking out with the WWE Championship. That's what I hope. And, I hope a lot of Daniel Bryan fans, after all the shit they've been taking with him losing to Bray Wyatt and, all the shit he's been eating with Triple H and everything, I hope he does win the belt. I think it would be a really good moment, especially for the very vocal Daniel Bryan fans.
I feel that Daniel Bryan, winning at Mania, that's why I was so pumped about Bryan possibly getting his win, and Bray, is that this is what's going to be remembered. Bray beating Cena, Bryan winning 3 against 3 top heels.
And Undertaker's streak continuing, I guess.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that, if you look at it, should happen at Mania, not after.
Well, that's another WrestleMania preview. We do one every year, so yeah, that's kind of strange. But if you have any thoughts on anything you think about WrestleMania 30 or anything from what we've talked about or any retorts to that, please let us know down in the comment section below. But like I said, we didn't really watch SmackDown or anything because we just thought it was kind of pointless because it's usually just a preview show anyway. So we hope you enjoyed this preview. WrestleMania 30 review should be up this Sunday. We'll see what happens. Depends how I feel really, but I should more than likely be reviewing the show with NJ. So that should be a nice video for you guys and us too as well to do that video. So thank you very much for watching, and here's with the outro.
What you gonna do, brothers and sisters, when the British fists come after you? Till next time, YouTubers, just do me one thing and run.